Okay, so we'll continue our contemplation on Tripura Rahasya. We're in chapter number 10 right now. Any doubts so far? So Bhagavan Dattatreya is teaching Parashurama through the story of Hemalekha and Hemachuda. Hemalekha is the wife. Hemachuda is the prince. And they've almost come to a point where now Hemachuda has understood the teachings of Hemalekha, and he's in the last chapter that we saw. He sits with discrimination, discarding what I am and what I am not, following the instructions given by his wife, and he goes into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. He goes into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and for 1.5 hours he is spent in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now, in the chapter 10, Hemalekha and Hemachuda have another discussion. And what is that discussion? And what's going to happen next is what this chapter is about. So he goes into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and she's very pleased. Hemalekha is very pleased that the husband is gone into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. What is Nirvikalpa Samadhi? What is Nirvikalpa?
Thoughtlessness.
Thoughtlessness.
And Nirvikalpa Samadhi is done with a stance, with a posture, and closed eyes.
Closed eyes. Okay. So Samadhi has various types. So first thing you need to understand, what is Samadhi? What is Samadhi? Rashmi, what is Samadhi?
A meditative state where you are in a thoughtless, you are one with the consciousness, or you feel connected with the universe.
You feel connected to the universe. So Samadhi is a state of absorption of the mind. Okay, mind has multiple pathways. Ultimately, the mind can get absorbed, or the mind get annihilated. Typically, the mind is absorbed, and any sort of absorption of the mind is called Samadhi. Okay, the mind is absorbed. That's why it's called. The mind is, it's called Samadhi. The mind is immersed in something. And why the immersion happens? Because the mind has some sankalpa, some intention, some desire. Why the sankalpa is there? Is because there is a vikalpa. Vikalpa means there's a movement in the mind. There's an imagination in the mind. There's a conceptualization in the mind. And that the primordial vikalpa is I thought. Is I. The I thought creates a sankalpa. And that sankalpa is ultimately desire. Right? Some intention, some desire. And that creates the mind to get absorbed in something. And typically, the mind is absorbed in. So don't think Samadhi means it's just somebody sitting with eyes closed. Somebody's absorbed in their job. It is they're absorbed in the work. Okay. That is, the mind is absorbed. Somebody's absorbed in the past. Okay. They become always possessed by the past. That is being absorbed in the past. So mind cannot get absorbed anywhere. Ultimately, its nature is to be absorbed in something. So the mind is always in a state of Samadhi. Okay. But it's in a lower state, and that creates more distortion, disturbance in the mind. Then when the mind starts moving, there is some grace that comes in, satsang, association, the mind starts having higher absorptions. That's the only difference. It's already absorbed in many things. It's absorbed in the I thought that I am the body, I am the mind, and is absorbed in Maya. So everybody by default are in Samadhi. You can never be out of Samadhi. You're either absorbed in Maya or absorbed in Brahman or absorbed in everything in between. Okay. So what are you absorbed in? The mind, because of vikalpa, gets absorbed in Maya. Okay. Now the same vikalpa, once the mind is purified because of sadhana, becomes a savikalpa samadhi, which is a connection with the totality. Then it becomes nirvikalpa, a state where there is no more vikalpa. That means there is no I thought, equivalent to your deep sleep. So nirvikalpa samadhi is a state of no vikalpa, no I thought, but the mind is still absorbed in what? Into its own causal state. It's gone into, it's absorbed in a dormant state. It's still there, but it's in a dormant state. It's gone back, it's absorbed into a causal state. It can be absorbed into a subtle state, a gross state, or a causal state. So by default, you get absorbed into a causal state, which is deep sleep. So nirvikalpa samadhi is exactly like deep sleep, where there's no I thought, where there's no thought of me, mind, other world, no other perception. But that doesn't mean the mind is not there. The mind has gone back to its causal state, and that's why it springs back. Okay. The same thing happens in nirvikalpa samadhi. In the waking state, the mind is able to, with awareness, with gnana, make the mind becomes silent, goes back into a deep silent state, where the I thought doesn't arise, momentarily. But then even that is a temporary state. Even that is not the end. So what does Hemachuda tell about Nirvikalpa Samadhi is what this chapter is, and how she takes him to the next step. So he wakes up from Nirvikalpa Samadhi, rather she wakes him up from Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It's been 1.5 hours. Okay. And when he opens his eyes, he tells, why are you disturbing my Samadhi? I was so absorbed, I'm so blissful. This is the best. People are fools that they run after the happiness in the world. This is the real happiness. This is the real bliss. This Samadhi that I was in is the real bliss. Okay. And he goes on praising the state. I was in such bliss, such silence, such divinity. And he says, everybody is just wasting their time. They're missing out on what I'm experiencing. And everybody needs to, there's a glitch again, just a moment. Everybody needs to go back into Samadhi. I have found the pure state. And all the human beings are, I feel pity on them. They're like, it's like there's sugar cane, right? There's sugar cane that's already been crushed and the juice is sucked out. So all the normal human beings are now, he says, he compares them to people eating that sugar cane. The sugar has already been sucked out, and they're trying to get more sugar out of it. They're trying to get happiness out of the world, which is not there. But the real happiness is in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which just one week ago, the person that he's describing was him. Okay. Now he feels that he has attained, and he goes on glorifying Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So Hemalekha is happy that he is progressed, but then she smiles at him and she tells, my dear husband, that you're talking about something as if you've attained the final. How can Nirvikalpa Samadhi be the final state? Okay, this now is another layer of delusion that you're in. She tells him that this state that you're talking about is dependent on 1 inch of your eyelid. The comparison she gives is 8 grains of barley. As much as 8 grains of barley, a lid that operates up and down, do you think that can give somebody the experience of Brahman? Or that can make somebody Brahman? That can give somebody the infinite consciousness? Or that can stop somebody from experiencing? Because you clearly tell, I want to go back. So you're telling that I want to go back. That means I have lost it now. Just because of movement of this 1 inch eyelid, you have lost Brahman. How can you lose Brahman? If it's something that is such which can be lost by this 1 inch device, then that means there is a serious problem. So she points out to him that what is dependent on something so minute cannot be the final. If closing your eyes is dependent for you to experience Brahman, then you have to rethink and relook at what you have found. Because whatever you have attained cannot be Brahman by the fact that you have attained it. Okay, if you're telling I have attained it, that means you have not reached, because Brahman cannot be attained. Whatever is attained is lost. So how can this be Brahman? How can this be the final state? She questions him. How can experience of Brahman be dependent on closing of your eyes? So you close your eyes and you say, I have reached the self. But then I open my eyes, then I have a problem. Again, the mind comes up, the world comes up. There lies your problem. So you must move to something which doesn't depend on your eyes closing or eyes being open. Then she tells him that the state of Atmagnana is a state of Sahaja Samadhi. With eyes open or closed, you are that. Then she tells him, then he asks now, okay, it makes sense that you're saying that if my eyes are closed and my mind is peaceful, when the eyes are open, the mind comes back. So in the language of yoga, this is called laya. Manas is becoming laya and manas is bringing back again. Mano laya, and there is another path of the mind called mano nasha. So she's telling him, what you have got right now is only mano laya. You're able to make the mind silent. But still, you have not got rid of, the word that she uses is knots. Like, a knot. So she tells him, now she's telling him how to get Sahaja Samadhi. She explains to him that in your mind there are many knots and they have to be released. And releasing these knots will establish the mind in Sahaja Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is very good. You have experienced it. Your mind has become peaceful. Your mind has become pure. But that is not the final. You have to attain Sahaja Samadhi, where with your eyes closed, you experience deep peace and your peace is never disturbed. be it your eyes closed or eyes open. You're in action or in inaction. You are in movement or in stillness. None of these contradictions should make a difference to you. You have to attain that state. So she describes something more. The moment she tells there is something more, naturally, now he wants that something more. Okay. Every time you reach some space, the mind always thinks, okay, as long as it doesn't know something more, it's fine. The moment it learns that there is something more, it desires for that something more. So one day, it's okay. So when Osho was giving lectures, he received a letter. So typically he gets these written notes, which are questions from people who are present there or people who have sent it across from different parts of the world. And he takes the paper, reads it and answers it as a dialogue between the master and disciple. So one of the notes that he had, one of the letters that he had received said, Bhagwan, my guru has reached, there are many states of consciousness. Okay, there are 26 states of consciousness. My guru has taken me to 14 states. Okay, now I'm working very diligently on the 15th state. And I had a guru who was taking me through all these states, but now for some reason I have left that guru. Can you help me navigate from the 15 states to the rest of the other states and help me reach the 26th state? Okay. Then Osho reads the letter and he laughs and he tells, and this person is not there in the audience. It's a letter that he's received, but the session is being telecasted and recorded. So Osho tells him, I'm sorry, I cannot help you. I'm in the 27th state. Okay. So the mind builds various concepts, including concepts of realization. And these concepts are called knots. So she's explaining to him, you have now just tied yourself with the knot called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Okay. And what is the knot? That this is self. First you had the knot called I am the body. Okay. From that knot, and it's not that it's an individual knot. One knot leads to another knot. It's a chain. It's a thread of knots. The knot called I am the body create a knot called I am different from the world. A knot called I am different from the world. And this is the explanation she gives in the text. Okay. Step by step, she explains how these knots operate. She tells at 3 levels. First level is the knot called I am the body. The fact that you're telling I want to close my eyes, you still have a notion of my eyes. You're still stuck with I am the body. Okay. So your Nirvikalpa Samadhi is still dependent on the knot called I am the body. So the moment you're not able to close the eyes, there's a dependency on your physical eyes. How can this be the final state? Okay, how can the self be affected by the body? What you're talking about and the reality, she gives a comparison. Usme zameen asman ka fark hai. This is the exact words that she says. The difference is sky and earth. Earth and sky. You are still stuck in the knot called I am the body. And it's a very deep-rooted knot. And that's what is making you speak like this and tell that I need to close my eyes again. When you have really attained the self, will you use this sentence, I need to close my eyes? Does the self have eyes? that it can close or open, you're still stuck in the body. So come out of it. So she points out to the deep-rooted concept called I am the body. Then that same knot leads to the world is different from me. Okay, I'm separate from the world. And that leads to an unbroken chain of ignorance. Okay, and what is the unbroken chain of ignorance? Deep at various levels of concepts, of waking, of dreaming, of people, of journey, of growth, of loss, of wealth, of fame, of failure. Okay. So all these they're all rooted in the first knot called I am the body. So you need to, and what she's doing now is that critical step that many people miss simply because they don't have a Sadguru, a master, to guide them. Okay, this very interaction is the key to enlightenment, where the master is able to puncture the final traces of ego. Okay, so somebody who claims I have attained, to tell that you have not attained is very hurtful. That too coming from a master. Other people generally tell, okay, what enlightened you are? You're a fool. Then the ego doesn't get hurt. But when the master tells, when the Sadguru tells, when your master tells, no, you have still not got it. That hurts. Okay, but that hurt is the key. That hurt that this master creates now, that she's creating as a master, she's telling him you have not got it. And immediately, she's pacifying the hurt and she's giving a solution. And she is giving him Atma Gnana. What is the Gnana she's giving him? She's making him aware of the final concepts that he needs to become free from. The concept that I have attained, I can attain, and attaining means I become something special. The final traces of duality, she's helping him cross over. Then she points out, she gives him the clarity of, she elaborates on these knots, and she tells that you need to drop your concept of I am the body. You need to drop the concept of I'm separate from the world. Okay, and then with this awareness that I am Brahman and everything is one consciousness, you need to realize and reach Sahaja Samadhi. On hearing this, Hemachuda's all ignorance is destroyed. Okay, now he doesn't close his eyes. Just by listening to this, teaching, somewhere in between, in this dialogue and discussion, his ignorance drops and he becomes a Jivan Mukta. He becomes enlightened. Now, after he's enlightened, his father Muktachuda starts, and his ministers start observing changes in him. Okay, this person is always peaceful, and he becomes, however responsible he was earlier, he takes more responsibility. Not that he becomes secluded. He takes on more responsibility. He starts ruling the kingdom, and others in the ministers and the king, his brother, everybody observe changes in him, and they become his students, and they get enlightened. They become Jivan Muktas, And the city that he was ruling, the kingdom that he was ruling, is called Vishala. And Vishala becomes a place of a lot of Gnanis. The whole kingdom, there, Bhagavan Dattatreya says, there were many, many Gnanis in the kingdom. There are a lot of rishis used to visit that city just to learn Atmagnana. And how glorious was that city? That even the birds there, the parrots there, they were talking about Atmagnana. Okay? The parrots used to say, there's a line in the book, what the parrots used to say. What is that? The parrots start telling statements, talking that focus your mind on the self and realize Brahman. So this is told by the parrots in the city. Now you can imagine the king. So yatha raja tata praja. However the ruler is, that's how the kingdom is. So the king now becomes self-realized and he rules the kingdom. The first part was about how he moved away from being immersed in the world to start questioning it, to become disgusted from it, to get absorbed in sadhana, and then finally move to Atmagnana with corrections and dialogue with the Guru. And then now it's the Bhagavan Dattatreya talks about post-enlightenment. What happens after this, after the end? The end is not this. The end is not Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti is just the beginning now. The beginning of a new perception, new way of life. Not only for him, whoever is associated with his ministers, the king, his siblings, they all get affected by him. They become Jivan Muktas. And then the city has Jivan Muktas. And even the animals in the city are talking about Atmagnana. And Bhagavan Dattatreya again concludes this chapter by telling Parashurama, all of this happened. How? All of this happened with simple, he just married one Gnani. Okay, he married a Gnani and he got associated with the Gnani. This close association with the Gnani brought this transformation in his life. Okay, and this is and again he concludes by saying, the secret is associating with Gnanis. Otherwise, the mind is always gets pulled in many, many, many dreams. And you don't even know that you're trapped. Only when you meet a Gnani are you able to come out of all this. That's why in the Guru Paduka Sutram, with the Shankaracharya writes, he tells, Ananta Samsara Samudratara Naukaitabhyam Guru Bhaktitabhyam. It's infinite. The ocean, Maya is like an ocean, infinite ocean. There is no way out. And only the association with the Guru, the Gnani, you find a way out. And this happened in the case of Hemalekha and Hemachuda. And he got established in Sahaja Samadhi. And just because he got Sahaja Samadhi, he realized himself. The Dattatreya also clarifies what happens after it. So even the aftermath, people have a lot of concepts. All that is clarified, telling that he ruled the kingdom. They fought many wars. Okay? And all of that happened, it was handled peacefully. Everything he handled with poise, silence, and divinity. So there ends chapter number 10. In chapter number 11, Parashurama goes on to ask now many doubts to Dattatreya, and his and what is the dialogue between Dattatreya and Parashurama will take up in the next session. Any doubts so far? Sheshariji? Suman?
Just interested into knowing what Parashurama is going to ask. Maybe all those questions that we have, I think, or I
Yeah.
have.
You have questions?
Not that it is coming out of this mind, but it is somewhere intertwined inside.
Related to what was discussed now?
No. As you said, now next chapter is all about Parashurama's questions and his clarification, Dattatreya's clarification.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking, what questions would Parashurama
Would he
ask?
possibly ask? You can read the book.
Maybe something that's also in our mind, in my mind, and it's something it might throw some more light. So, quite interesting to know next class. Guruji,
Any questions?
I have one, like, now I'm just learning Bhagavad Gita and I keep reciting all the shlokas. Many a times I feel I'm orally reciting, but my mind is thinking or it is elsewhere. It's not there with my recitation. And I always don't like that aspect of mind wandering and I doing some recitation and things like that. Can I also put it like that's also type of meditation wherein we have to, though it's not with a closed mind, with your action also you have to be with your recitation, not wander off, something like that?
So the question is, I'm multitasking and I don't like to multitask, especially when I'm doing Lord's work.
Yes. I don't know. That's what is we need little bit of multitasking in our day-to-day activity also. It's not that you can compartment, okay, I'm doing this, then I will do that, then I cannot do that also. You need some background things. But especially when I'm doing Bhagavad Gita and my mind is absolutely involved in some different discussion and chanting is going on. I don't like that happening.
Are other people also there or only you are there?
In my mind, there are a lot of things going on.
No,
When I'm chanting, I'm doing alone at home.
Chanting you're doing alone at home. That's the problem. The moment, so that's why it's called yajna. Yajnarthat karmana unnitra lokoyam karma bandhanaha Tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So the answer to the question, the answer to your question, Krishna's answer is this. It's called karma bandhana. Karma bandhana means all these conflicts that happen in the head while action at any point can only be one. You can of course do multiple things. You can cook and you can sit in front of the laptop, you can move around, but at any point of time you can only do one thing. Okay, and when you're doing that one thing, it becomes karma bandhana, because there is the mind is somewhere else, the body is doing something else, your deep desires is somewhere else, the subconscious mind is somewhere else. So there's no alignment. The solution that Krishna gives to become aligned is it has to become yajna. Yajna means an offering to totality. And the only way that can happen is you bring somebody else into the picture. The moment you give others, then alignment happens in you. So when one teaches, two learn. When one teaches, two learn. So when I chant, it is still me chanting. But when I teach chanting, then the mind is more present. The mind cannot be involved in other things because you are now giving. And the process of, and this is a general principle in any aspect of life, the more you change whatever you're doing to giving, that builds strength and that makes you more aligned. So whatever you're doing, from karma it has to become yajna. That's all.
Because I was very touched with that Ananyas Chintayanto Ma Yejana Paryupasate Tesham Yukta Viyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyam. I was reading that chapter I was learning, and then I was reading all the meanings, and that really said Ananyas Chinta, you should not think anything. You should completely be with me. And I was taking the very word meaning of it, I think. But that shloka has really sunk in. So every time my mind wanders when I'm doing my practicing, I don't like. I'm not. I'm thinking. I am thinking of Ananya things. I'm not with Krishna. It's sort of.
Yeah. So so what happens is that's the conceptualization of the mind, right? So I'll tell you what Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to tell. Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to tell. First of all, he used to tell that all of you people, whoever he used to address, disciples, you are in Kali Yuga. Okay. In Kali Yuga, not much is expected from you. Life is not easy in Kali Yuga. It's the nature of the Yuga itself. The nature of the Yuga is it's simulated in such a way that it's not easy. Okay, life is tough. In history, we'll see hundreds and thousands of wars. Okay, for many years, genocides after genocides. Okay, diseases, COVID now. Okay, recessions after recessions. Okay, bank loans interest going high. Okay, healthcare prices going high. It's not easy. Life is simply not easy in Kali Yuga. Okay, so in such a Kali Yuga, in such a Yuga, what is prescribed is smarana. So in the Navavida Bhakti, there are it's Navavida, nine bhavas: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnuskaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Mandyam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedam. The only thing you have to do is smarana. Smarana is remembrance. Remembrance of the Lord. And Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to say, you remember the Lord, especially as a Grihastha, you remember the Lord once. That is the greatest sadhana you can do. Simply because that means you have found time for the Lord amidst all the turmoils of life. Okay, you have to take care of a child, you have to go to the office, you have to deal with the world. Amidst all of this, you have taken some time out for the Lord, and that itself opens up many doors for you. So Ananyas Chintayantoma doesn't mean, Anya means many. Ananya Chintayantoma, one who doesn't have many thoughts, always focused on me, I will personally take care of him. Okay, this is the meaning of the shloka. Ananyas Chintayantoma Yejana Pariupasate Tesham Nityabhyuttanam Yoga Kshema. I will personally take care of their yoga and kshema. Yoga means, so yoga is, there's yoga and kshema. What is yoga and kshema, you know? Yoga is, I have to get something in my life. There's so many gaps. I don't have a house, I need a house. I don't have a car, I need a car. I don't have this much money, I need money. So there's something that you need to get more in life. And kshema is, I already got something that needs to be sustained. Okay, I already have a family that needs to be sustained. So both getting and sustain, yoga and kshema, I will personally take care of. When
you don't think anything other than me.
no.
When you
How is it possible to not to think of anything about it?
again,
When we offer everything we do as God's work. Or
See, yoga kshemam vahamyam means first, it all depends on what understanding you have about God. Okay. Typically, everybody starts with apara bhakti. Apara bhakti means there is no gnana. Okay, there is some belief because of the upbringing, because of the good upbringing, whatever. You have some belief in God. What is God? What is reality? What is Brahman? There is no knowledge. There is no gnana. But because of some conditions, past life karma, good karma, you're born into some place where you have some good samskaras. That acts as a good push. So you believe in Krishna, Rama, or some deity, and you do worship, puja, and there is some devotion. Okay, that is the starting point. That is called apara bhakti. There is no gnana, but there is bhakti. Okay, in bhakti there is deep-rooted duality. That I am bhakta, and Bhagavan is the all-powerful. But what is that Bhagavan? What is my connection to that Bhagavan? That knowledge is not there. Okay, so in that stage, Ananyas Chintayantoma, somebody who's in that stage has not even come to reading the shloka. Okay, they have not even come, and this is a shloka from the Bhagavad Gita. They know Krishna, but they don't know Bhagavad Gita. Maybe they know stories of Krishna because of their upbringing, and they worship Krishna. They do puja of Krishna. Okay, maybe they do chanting, but they have not come to Bhagavad Gita, which is the teaching of Krishna. Okay, so Krishna tells, Lokesmin dvividhanashta pura prokta mayanaga gnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoga. So they're still in the second path. There are two paths, gnana path and path of karma. They're still in the path of karma where they've not come yet to come across the shloka Ananyas Chintayantoma. Even if it is being said somewhere, I want more shloka. So, to be honest, I myself didn't know that this is a shloka from Bhagavad Gita. I had heard it hundreds of times in the Vishnu Sahasranama cassette. So when I was a child, my grandmother used to first play Vishnu Sahasranama in the morning. So in the Vishnu Sahasranama, the shloka comes. Ananyas Chintayantoma Yejana Pariyabhava. It was by default recorded in my memory, and I by-hearted the shloka also. But only after I met my guru did I come to know it's a shloka from the Bhagavad Gita, and this is what it means. Okay. So in that When you're in apara bhakti, when you have devotion to Krishna, you just have devotion to Krishna. And in that devotion, many things happen. The devotion itself, Lord blesses you and moves you depending on your desires and karma. Maybe possibly gets you an opportunity to go to the next level, which is meet a Gnani. When that happens, Ananyas Chintayantomam is no longer required because you met the Lord. What you do, Chintana of the Lord. Okay, so meeting the Gnani, meeting the Guru, is meeting Bhagavan himself. So what you've been doing Chintana for all these lifetimes. So it is said that many Bahunam Janmanamante Gnanavan Nam Prapadyate. Another shloka from the Bhagavad Gita. And all of these shlokas are, you cannot take them in isolation. Okay? Because the words of Krishna is beyond, it is divine words. It is words of consciousness. Okay? You cannot look at them in isolation. So when Krishna tells Ananyas Chintayantoma, he also says Bahunam Janmanamante. So you have come to a point where you can think about Lord like that. Think only about the Lord. That means you have some gnana about the Lord. And where did the gnana come from? You have met a guru. And for having met a guru, you have already completed your sadhana. You have already moved from aparabhakti to parabhakti. You've done sadhana, you've done dhyana, you've done tirthyatra, you've done all of that. And finally, you have met a master. And when you have met a master, the mind naturally focuses only on the master, on the guru, who is a living gnani, living God. Okay? Then even if the mind wants to, it cannot move away from that. Then chintana, japa, sadhana, smarana, seva, everything happens on its own. Whether you want to or not. Because now the guru takes over. Okay? And everything is taken care of in life that is seen as a reality in life. You start experiencing, ordinarily, miracle is only a concept. Okay, there's something called miracle. It only happens in movies. Because of gnana and bhakti maturing, you start seeing miracles every other day. You start seeing the miracle of life in your life, in the changes in your mind, in the way you react, in the way you handle life. All of these start manifesting. Okay? And that is the Lord taking care. You see the interconnectedness of life. You see the Lord operating through various beings and forces. And for somebody who's moved away from apara bhakti and come to bhakti, maybe that person sees more. Okay? And typically it happens in Savikalpa Samadhi, which is a state of highest bhakti, a state of realization of God realization. This person might experience or does experience the divinity more. In a sense, there is a story for that. There was a person who was reading the commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. And this person is very, very poor. And he's writing the commentary. And this shloka is Ananyas Chintayantoma. He writes the commentary. He writes, whoever thinks about Krishna with the devotion, he's very doubtful. He doesn't know what to write. And he just writes, okay, Bhagavan Krishna will send somebody and send some help. And this person is very poor, Now he's finished his commentary writing. He's gone out to find some work and bring some food to the house. By the time he comes back in the evening, the house is filled with food, clothes, money, everything. Then he asks his wife, who bought all this? He tells you sent some boy called Gopala. He came and he gave all this and he went. Then he goes and finds his book. In that book, that line is scratched. Whatever commentary he had written now, it's scratched out. And the real commentary written. What is the real commentary? I will personally come and take care of you. Okay. So when you have offered your life to Bhagwan, Bhagwan will come and personally take care of your life. Personally. Okay. Will come and take care of your life. The question is, are you ready to offer your life to Bhagwan? Are you ready to surrender? Okay. And this is the meaning of the shloka. When you surrender to the Krishna with the gnana, all that assuming is already happened. Okay, without that happening, it's difficult. You've already crossed through various stages of parabhakti and sadhana and everything, and come to a state where you're able to understand the Lord more, connect to the Lord, associate with satsang, divine beings in the human form, and you start seeing many miracles in your life, and you start seeing how God personally takes care of your life. And this shloka is actually very close to my heart also. Many times, and of course it's because of my association with my guru, who I'll some other day, when you have the opportunity to interact with him, you can find out the stories from his life of how this shloka manifested in his life. In my life, I have seen this shloka in real life. Surrendering to the Guru, I have seen the Guru take care of so many things, which would have been impossible for me to handle. Okay. So before when my master asked me to start teaching, he told me, you do God's work, God will do your work. Okay. What? You do God's work, then God will do your work. And I've seen that in my life. So you do God's work, God will do your work. Literally will take care of your responsibilities. Okay. How will that happen? All that is a miracle part. Okay, that's why Osho said, be realistic and plan for a miracle. Okay. To be real is to acknowledge the possibilities of miracle. It's only idiots who say miracle is not possible. You are looking at a world through an instrument of miracle. Okay. How? See, there is nothing here. There's in between this and this. Actually, there's no entity element apart from a physical element. If you recreate this physical element, you cannot recreate sight. But somehow this physical element can see a world and understand it. Okay, that's a miracle. Somehow there is no difference between a body that is dead and a body that is alive. Okay, let's say there's a dead body and there's somebody who's alive. There's no difference in their bodies. But one body is dead, one other body is alive. Because of the presence of consciousness. What that consciousness is, science cannot explain. That is the miracle. Now that miracle that can make one tiny bundle of mud become into a tree and give fruits and create many more trees. That miracle that can hold a ball of humongous mass worth billions of tons in space and make it move around another ball of mass. Okay. And can lead and can take care of the needs of thousands of and millions of human beings and animals, not only in this planet, don't know, God knows how many planets, Earths are there, can handle your life in a more intelligent way, if you allow it. Okay. That is the shloka, Ananyas Shintyantam. It's not putting this, making it a matter of pressure is the game of the mind. Oh, I'm not thinking of the Lord. I'm not thinking of the Lord. I am not thinking of the Lord is thinking of the Lord. Okay. When you get the thought, I didn't think about Bhagavan, you have thought about Bhagavan. And Bhagavan needs only that much. So one day Buddha was walking in the forest, and he comes across a spider web. In the spider web, he sees through. There's a small pond. In the pond, he's able to see through and see in hell. In hell, he's able to see one person that he recognizes. Okay, how does he recognize? He's able to see in the past life that this person in hell had once, he was a wicked character, but one day when he was walking, there was a spider, and he did not crush the spider, he did not stamp the spider, he let it go. Consciously he told, okay, I'll not kill it, I let it go. And Buddha recollects that, and he feels compassion, and he takes out a web from that spider web and he drops it into the hell so that this person can climb out. So Bhagavan, even for a person in hell, opened his record, one tiny good deed that he did. He looked at that, acknowledged that, and gave him a way of freedom. But the mind does completely opposite. Okay, somebody has done maybe 100 good things. The mind will look at what? The one mistake that you did, and everything else is burnt out. But the Lord is completely opposite. Existence is opposite. Existence only looks at the smallest good deed and rewards you. It is waiting to reward you. Bhagavan is waiting to embrace you. And that is the very purpose of Bhagavad Gita. It is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan's calling, come back to me. Okay. And that is the consciousness of Bhagavan. So you have to understand the divine consciousness and human consciousness. Human consciousness is completely ulta to the divine consciousness. Okay. In the divine, and that is why the people who reach divine consciousness become there's a shift in their behavior and approach. They are compassionate to all the people that society rejects. Okay, so somebody is asking Osho, why the enlightened one is so compassionate? Why is Buddha so compassionate, like to people like Angulimala, who is a murderer, right? Who actually killed people? How can he accept him as a disciple? Right? Which is wrong. So that means you will just go and give blessings to terrorists and other people. That's just wrong. So Bhagavan Osho explains the science of compassion. See, anybody who's suffering, right? So you suffer, and you understand other people also suffer, because you have the ability to suffer. Just because you have the ability to suffer, you never really understand the other person who is suffering. He tells, only the one who is free from suffering, who is joyful, can really understand one who is in suffering. Example, there's a beggar. There are two beggars. The one beggar will never think about the other beggar. Oh, he's going through so much, because he himself is filled with his problems. Okay, he's so full of his problems. There is no time for him to be compassionate to the other person. In fact, if he gets 10 rupees, he will try to see how I can take the money. But both the beggars now come in contact with a billionaire. Now, the billionaire, although he's a billionaire, he's not suffering. He's more compassionate. He can understand, oh, these people are struggling for something which I don't have to worry about in my life. Okay, his compassion is real. So in that way, a gnani, when the gnani sees what Shankaracharya tells, Maya Madira Pita Branta. Shankaracharya tells, the people are drunk with Maya Madira, with the Maya. And for drunk people, how can you blame them? You need to become compassionate on them. And that is why the Gnanis give. That is why the Gnanis teach. That is why the Gnanis give the Gnana. Okay, and that is why they're so compassionate. Simply because they are the only ones who can truly understand the suffering. Okay, this is the shift. This is the difference in divine consciousness and human consciousness. So, Ananyas Chintayantoma is Lord looking at that or good word that you said, or good thought that you had, and raining and showering blessings upon. Okay. But the mind thinks ulta. Mind thinks, oh my God, I didn't take the prasada in the temple. Lord will be angry at me. Okay, I didn't bathe on this day. Lord will be angry at me. You're always finding ways to superimpose the human mentality on Bhagwan. Okay. Lord and anger are very Lord, anger and punishment, all of these are very Western concepts, which come from a very poor understanding of divinity. But the teachings in India come from the realization of divinity. They're not understanding of divinity. They are humans who have realized the divinity and who are divine in the human form. Okay, and then we have avatars, whereas divinity taking a human form and speaking. So when divinity has taken a human form and told the words, I will take care of you, what is your problem with that? Why are you adding more conditions? Okay, don't you think that Lord knows that it's impossible to have Aranyas Chintan? That's impossible. How can anybody only think about Bhagwan? That's impossible. Because the nature of the mind is it keeps generating some thoughts. What thought comes, who has control of? So Krishna tells in the Gita, controlling the mind is like controlling the wind. Somebody who's made that statement also understands how can you make that wind go into the direction that you want. It is by the grace of the Lord that you think of the Lord. And if that thought has come, you have already crossed over many, many stages in evolution. And if you have met the Lord in human form, which is you met as Guru, that means you've already been through a lot. Why you're going back to your old tendency of going back to suffering? Right? So Lord will take care of you. The meaning of that shloka is, Lord Bhagwan will personally take care of you. when you have to first of all have an understanding of Lord. Okay. The gnana of Bhagavan naturally brings surrender in the mind towards Bhagavan. Okay, because Bhagavan is divine, glorious. Anything that the mind realizes as glorious, it naturally bows down to it. Like, so you go to some music concert, the musician blows your mind away. Okay, he just blows your mind away. He or she just blows your mind away. Then you naturally feel like bowing down to that person, because you see this is something extraordinary. Okay, you say wow, and that saying wow is one way of bowing down. In that bowing down, there's no ego. There's no, oh, I am smaller than him. All that thought is not there. You don't care if you are big or you are small. You're only captivated by what is the expression there. Okay, and that expression is divine. That's Saraswati. You're bowing down to Saraswati. Yasharji, you were raising your hand. Your voice is very low.
I think you mentioned initially when you mentioned about surrender. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah.
Initially, when you mentioned surrender, the question that I had was what it means to surrender. Is it like two things? One, as a karma yoga says, doing everything as an offering to the God and accepting the results as a prasad of God. That's the surrendering means?
So, offering to God and accepting the result from God as a prasada is karma yoga. So, karma yoga is whatever I do it as an offering to Lord, and in that there is some result that comes. Whatever good and bad result come, I accept as the gift from the Lord. And then third step, I understand I am not the doer, Lord is the doer for me. So that is karma yoga. That is not surrender. But surrender has, so this question of what is surrender? Surrender is, we are in an ecosystem, we are in a place which is infinite intelligence, which is operated by an infinite intelligence. True or false? We are put into a playground where there are bigger players playing, bigger elements playing at all the time. At any given point of time, you are not the biggest in the room. The biggest will have another bigger than that person. Okay? Then there'll be a bigger element, an organization or something. Then there'll be a bigger element, a government. Then there'll be a bigger element, forces of nature. Then that'll have another bigger element, the consciousness, the energies. Then that'll have the biggest element, which is Brahman, the one who is overseeing everything. Okay, at any given point of time, always there are multiple of these factors at play. And all of them are operating intelligently. Okay. Now, the problem with the human mind is it doesn't acknowledge this rule of the game, that there's so much intelligence working. The human mind says, just a moment, let me open this clip. The human mind says, are you able to hear me? The human mind says, I am the one who's doing. Okay? Knowing that there are so many, it is impossible for you to do anything as an individual, still there is a notion, I am doing. Now, the shift from I am doing to I am not the doer is surrender. And that is no ordinary shift, because that is a key shift. That I am doing will always persist. It creates regrets, guilt. To get released from I am doing seems to be like a big task. But I am doing is not the reality. Okay, that I am doing, to become free from I am doing, is surrender. When you realize I am not the one who's doing, there is no way I can do. I am not. Naham karta, Harideva karta. I am not doing. I am not thinking. I cannot think. I cannot do. Everything is a divine happening. This realization comes after a lot of maturity. The jiva has to mature a lot. Okay, and this teaching itself also is not given just arbitrarily. When at the right time, right moment, the guru comes and gives the teaching, you are not the doer. The gnana of I am not the doer leads to surrender. Where it hits you. Oh, the surrender is a bulb clicking. It's a click. Oh, I am not doing. Okay. Otherwise, if that is still there, then whatever you're saying is just theory. It's not real. That main notion that I am not doing is not gone. Then what surrender are we talking about? So let me ask you, are you doing?
No, I am not even surrendering. Surrendering happens.
I am not even surrendering. So this I am doing is the ignorance. And this I am doing doesn't go just so easily. But with at the right time, right interaction, right gnana, there's a epiphany, right? That epiphany is, oh, I am not really doing. So if you ask Prabhuji, he'll make you lift your hand. Lift your hand, then tell how you're not doing. That is the epiphany, right? Oh, I can't even lift my hand. Then what am I doing? If I can't even lift my hand, what is the question of surrender? The question of surrender itself is not there. If I can't even lift my hand, there's no discussion any further. Surrender means, okay, there is, in the question of surrender, there are some defaults. Okay, there are some solidities. You have solidified a notion that there is some entity which is individual, which is all powerful, which needs to surrender. Okay, which needs a shift. But the reality is that entity itself is false. There is no such thing as individual. There is no individual doer. Okay. Now then, for whom is the surrender? Who has to surrender? And when there is a notion of individuality, how can surrender happen without gnana? So any teaching that you give somebody who is deeply rooted in I am the doer, they will convert that into another doing. Then surrender is also another doing. But surrender is not an action. Surrender is epiphany that, oh, I am not the doer. Another epiphany that, oh, there is no individual. There's no me. There's no I. The ultimate epiphany is there is no I. The I, which is holding all these stories, itself is false. It's just an I thought. The I is a feeling of I. The I feeling is I thought. When you look at the I thought, it disappears. Then what is left is pure consciousness, awareness, in which there is no question of asking surrender. Okay. In the inverted state, there is no meaning of asking about surrender, because this person is still rooted in I am the doer. The surrender is that in between, where the shift happens, where you realize, because of the teaching, you clearly realize. And when I say realize, not intellectual. Yeah, ultimately it is intellectual, but a deep clarity, seeing that, oh damn it, there is no doer. You're so clear that you don't need another explanation. And there's no fallback from that clarity. That no fallback from the clarity that I am not the doer is surrender, is Atmangnana. It's a state of no fallback. No fallback from just the notion that I am the doer. You realize I am not the doer. If I am not the doer, your story is finished, over. What more is there? Who else is there to ask the question? Is surrender clear, Sheshariji? See what surrender, the moment you tell the word surrender, there is always a picture in the mind. There's a mental conceptualization. Every word is a nama. So Maya is nama and rupa. Correct? Maya is nama and rupa. Nama rupa is the Maya. Now, in nama rupa, and what is nama rupa? Nama is thought. Right? This is a cup. Your sense that this is a cup and this is real, I'm interacting with it, all is because of nama and rupa. Okay, and what is nama? Nama is the name called cup. And where is the name coming from?
Past memory.
Memory. Memory, right? What is memory?
Heap of thoughts, probably. Or
Memory is a thought. So nama ultimately is a thought. Okay. Then there is rupa. Rupa, right? Rupa, the only way for you to know the rupa is sense organs. No sense organ, no rupa. And in the sense organ, the sense organ is only taking some data and converting into readable data by your brain. What is the readable data? It's another thought. Right? The thought is the cup. Cup is thought. No thought, no cup. So look at the whole world is nothing but thought. No thought, no world. When you say surrender, what is the thought that you get?
to do something.
Correct. When you say surrender, there is a thought of action. The thought of action is rooted in thought of doer. To act, there should be somebody to act, right? Who is going to do the action? And with surrender, implicitly, the doer is me. You understand? You understand? It implies I have to do something. That is why Gnana hits, you are not the doer. When you are not the doer, then what is the consequence of that? There is no action to be done by you. Realizing I am not the doer is the action that you are missing. And in the sense, realization is not an action. So in the sense, you can never surrender. Because the one who has to surrender itself is false. You only have to see through the falsehood of this illusion of nama and rupa. Surrender implies an action, implies an actor, and implies a authority, receiver. Authority, action, actor. This is called Triputi. Okay. The actor is the seer. Me, in this case, I, individual. Then the authority is seen. Then the action is seen. Seer, seen, and seen. This seer, this Triputi, has to be dissolved with Gnana. That the authority is consciousness. Okay. The action is Jada. Action is Jada. The seer, the doer, is not the doer. Okay. The doer, there is no individual doer. Realizing this collapses the three, seer, seen, and seen, into just being. And that being is Samadhi. This collapse of seer, seen, and seen into just being is called Samadhi. And it's called Gnana. It's called surrender.
That way, probably we can say the ego surrendered itself.
No, that's the thing. Ego, it doesn't exist.
Huh.
To say ego surrendered itself, it's like saying, see here, you had a dream. Okay, you went to Paris.
I want to come to India.
Okay, you came to India in the dream. You came to India in the dream. And your parents left you some property. Okay, a big secret property that they are never disclosed to you, because that will ruin your mind and you will not be responsible in life. It's crores worth of property, big piece of land is there in the commercial, right in MG Road. There's a big piece of land they've left for you. Okay. Now, when you wake up from the dream, do you feel sad about losing that piece of land? In the dream, if you had lost a piece of land, you would have felt sad. Waking up, losing that piece of land, do you feel sad?
Never mind.
Huh?
It was never mine.
It was never yours.
Yeah.
There's a difference between losing and realizing that it doesn't exist. You understand? There's a difference between I cannot do and I am not the doer. Okay? There's a difference between ego and realization that ego is shadow, it doesn't exist. When something that doesn't exist, whenever you associate terms like the death of the ego, all that is useless, it doesn't make sense. There's something that doesn't exist, how can it be born or die? Right? So the death of that dream character is not really death, neither is he alive. First of all, he's not alive, it's just an appearance. You understand? So surrender has no connection to ego. There's nothing called ego in surrender. Surrender is realizing that ego is a fictional character. You understand? That is the epiphany. Surrender is realizing that there is no ego. So all those who say, I have surrendered, clearly are not getting the point. It's like Ravana saying, I am the greatest Shiva Bhakta. So this surrender is illustrated in the story in our Puranas, in story of Prahalada. Okay, in Prahalada's father is Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu always wants to, in the school, there is no Om Namo Narayanaya. There is only Om Namo Hiranyakashipaya. Everybody should say Om Namo Hiranyakashipaya. Okay, Om Namo Hiranyakashipaya. Then the son starts saying Om Namo Narayanaya. And he gets very angry. He tries to kill the son. In many, many ways, he's tried to kill the son. The son doesn't die. Then ultimately, they have a dialogue. In the dialogue, he questions, is the God, is your Narayana here? In the pillar, he says the Lord is in the pillar. And the Lord comes out as Narasimha. And this Narasimha is very gloriously unique because Hiranyakashipu has a boon that he cannot be killed by a human, neither an animal. Okay? No weapon can kill him. He cannot be killed in day or he cannot be killed in night. He cannot be killed inside, he cannot be killed outside. Okay? Then this intelligence that thought so much to preserve itself didn't realize that there is a higher intelligence, that can simply change the game. So Narasimha comes and puts him in between, inside and outside. At dusk he comes, neither day, neither night. Then he kills him with his nails. He's neither animal, neither human. So ego, this Hiranyakashipu is the ego. That's why the beauty of our ancestors is that they gave such a beautiful name. You know what is Hiranyakashipu? The word Hiranyakashipu? Anybody knows? Kashipu means pillow. I have a pillow here. Okay? Hiranyakashipu means below the pillow there's gold. So a mind is always thinking about the gold, even when sleeping. It's called Hiranyakashipu. Okay? The gold is I thought. Always you're thinking about me, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. That is Hiranyakashipu. That's why he makes the children chant Om Namo Hiranyakashipaya. Why? Because me, I am the greatest. And don't think it's the Asura king. Anybody who thinks I am the doer is Hiranyakashipu. The moment you say I am the doer, you are denying the higher order intelligence that's taking care of everything, including you claiming that I am the doer. To say that I am the doer, your body should operate, right? Your body should operate, your brain should function, you should have the intelligence, strength. All that is provided by somebody else. So in the future, scientists figured out a way to make human beings. Okay, they're able to make robots that look actually like human beings. They're made of flesh and bones, and they're also able to give them consciousness. So then they call God. They tell God, we don't need you anymore. We have figured out technology to make human beings. So God tells, okay, fine, we do a contest. You make a human being, I make a human being. Okay, and whoever human being is better, they can continue to make human beings. So scientists say, okay, fine, we'll do that. We'll play a contest. Then somebody tells start. Then the scientists start gathering all mud and raw materials, everything to make human being. Then God tells them, no, stop. You have to get your own materials. You can't use my materials. Whatever you use, it's all mine. How can you, with what I have given you, are doing something, manipulating it, and telling that you have done something? Right? So Hiranyakashipu is that I am the doer. And that I am the doer wants to kill Prahalada. Prahalada is Ahalada, means it's a craving for divine, God. It's a divine heart. There's a deep inner craving in all of us to unite with the divine. That is Prahalada. And that is always tried to be buried. So people buried with logic, people buried with alcohol, people buried with sense pleasures. Everybody just tries to bury that, try to kill that. But it doesn't die. No matter what you do, it doesn't die. There's a deep craving for infinity. Then Narasimha appears. Who is this Narasimha? Narasimha. Nara means human. Simha means animal. But is neither human, neither animal. This neither human, neither animal is Sadguru. Sadguru is not, he has a human form, but is not human. Okay? It is pure consciousness. He has an identity, but he's not the identity. Okay? It's neither human. That means he's something that your mind can never understand. So when Hiranyakashipu was asking for the boon, he didn't account for Narasimha. He didn't account for this person who is beyond his comprehension. So the I never accounts for no I. Okay. Then one day it meets the no I, called Sadguru, master. Then the I gets killed. The I gets killed means, how the I gets killed, the Hiranyakashipu, Narasimha opens up with his nails. Okay? And it's neither inside nor outside. Neither in Samadhi. You understand? Samadhi doesn't give Atmangnana. Samadhi is Manolaya, inside. That's what Hemachuda says. Your realization is dependent on going inside. But consciousness is neither inside, neither outside. So, Samadhi, the clarity of I am not the doer doesn't come in Samadhi. The only thing that comes out is you come out of Samadhi and say, I went into Samadhi. Okay? That also you make into a doing. I went into Samadhi. I got Samadhi. Then it is neither outside, neither in the waking. Because in the waking, the mind is focused on the objects and the world. It is in between, and that in between is called the presence of the master. In the presence of the master, there is a dialogue where you realize that the ego doesn't exist. That there is no such thing as Hiranyakashipu. And that is the meaning of Lord is there in this pillar, in this pillar, in this pillar. That's what Prahlad is trying to say. Is Bhagavan there in this pillar? Yes. Is Bhagavan there in this pillar? Yes. Is he there in this pillar? Yes. In everything that he points out to, he says is there. What is there is only Bhagavan. In that, there is a superimposition that I am there and I am doing something. That is the ignorance. That ignorance will continue until one pillar opens up and Narasimha comes out. That is Atmanana. Now, in this whole story, where is surrender? Did Hiranyakashipu surrender? In fact, when Narasimha appeared, he wanted to fight Narasimha. In that fight, he died. The death is the surrender. The death of the ego is realization that there is no ego. It's to realize that I am not the doer. So, in surrender, Shesharji, when you said it implies an action, it does imply an action, but not on your part. It implies an action on the Guru's part. The Guru has an action to do. What is the Shishya's action? To lie flat. Okay. There is no implication on you in surrender. When the time comes, the surrender happens, and in that happening, you are just you understand?
Guruji, could you repeat the last two sentences? The screen was frozen for me.
So surrender is a happening. It's not a doing. Okay. Now a happening ego cannot understand. But it so happens you come to a point because of your association with Guru and Satsang. You have understood the divine more. And a moment comes where you understand I am not the doer. And that is a moment of happening. And in that happening, you are a passive partner. Arjuna is a passive partner. Okay. Krishna is the active one. So surrender has no implication on you. It has all the role and responsibility is the masters, is the divines. Your job is only to reach to that point. And you reach to that point. How Bahunam Janmananti. After a long time, people reach to that point where they come across the teaching, they come across the master, then everything else is taken care of. Is surrender clear? Any doubts in surrender? Clearly understand, I am not the doer. You do not do. Neither are you the thinker. You cannot think, you cannot do. Then what is this whole thing about my life? You say, my life? This is my life. I do whatever I want. There is no such thing as my life, your life. It is divine's life. What should I do with my life? Neither can you do, neither is it your life. When you have this realization, epiphany, that moment is surrender.
Then Guruji, can we say all these questions that you get is only for you to have a discussion with your Guru and grow up or improvise on your understanding?
That's the only way, no? That vidhi pranipathena. That is the only way. Pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshanti te gnanam. Gnanena. There's no other way. The only way is dialogue. Question, answer, realization. Question, answer, then what is that? Correction. That's why it said Shravana Matrena. Satkrit Shravana Matrena Brahma Gnanam Yato Bhavet. What other way is there? Prasadji, any doubt? Prapatti is clear.
No questions arise in your presence, Guruji.
Rashmi, you miss surrender.
Yeah, I think that is also divine will.
Divine will to miss surrender. You have to wait another lifetime.
Yes, probably.
So Viplavji, any doubts? Surrender.
No doubt, Krishna.
Surrender is called Sharanagati. Okay. प्रभु के शरण में आना. तो आप कभी भी प्रभु के शरण के बाहर नहीं गए.
Correct.
It's like the fish is never out of water. Okay, the fish Is water, is made up of water, survives because of water, is water. And the fish desires to realize water. It is water. It is made up of water. And it is in water. So there's no question of surrender to the fish. You're always in Bhagwan. The only barrier is that I thought. I thought is the only barrier. It's like fish thinking, I am separate from water. I am exclusive. There is nothing exclusive in existence. Everything is inclusive. There cannot, in consciousness, there cannot be anything exclusive. That's why it's called non-dual, Advaita. Advaita means no exclusivity. Okay, there's nothing else apart from Brahman. Whatever else is there is only conceptual, dream. Is Maya. Brahma Satya, Jagat, Mithya. Jagat is exclusive, that is Mithya. But that Mithya is also Brahman only. That's why the surrender in bhakti is always misinterpreted. Always. That is the problem. In bhakti, when it's illustrated, see what happens in bhakti is surrender gets illustrated. It's illustrated through story, it is illustrated through image. When it's illustrated, your mind goes into another concept. Okay, meaning you form a narrative about surrender. Okay, this is point A. Then somebody went to point A. The person was like this. Point B, something happened. Point C, this was some change in the action. Then point D. In Gnana, there is no point. It's pointless. Okay, because all the points depend on I point. Okay, that center, your center itself is questioned. I surrendered to the Lord is a false statement. I am not the doer. Lord is the doer. Is surrender. Okay, that includes surrender also. That's why it's Naham Karta, Harideva Karta. Simply understand you are not the doer. Even if you want to, you cannot do anything. That want also you cannot have. It has to come on its own. Have I told you about the lipid experiment? There's a scientist called Libet. Have I told you about the Libet experiment? So the scientist called Libet, he did an experiment on thought. So the experiment was, he put probes to the brain and he asked people, the participant, there's a switch there. The person has to press the switch whenever they get the thought or intention. So they press the switch. So he found that people, when they press the switch, 200 milliseconds before they got the conscious thought of pressing the switch, the brain had already released signals to the hand to move the hand to press the switch. That means existence already has moved for the action to happen. Then, as a part of that moment, you get a thought to do the action. So let's say you wake up to turn off the fan. Before you get a thought or that you do the action, existence already moved deep inside you. Okay, then you get a thought and then you move. So Libet proved that there's no such thing as free will with his experiment. That before you get the thought of doing the action is already started. And who's doing that action? All the things that are beyond your control. All the energies that you are run by and not you are running. So you are not the doer. If you are not the doer, what is the question of surrender? Then to ask the question, how can I surrender, is also meaningless. The surrender question has been bothering Sheshadri for a long time, is it? You're on mute.
No, not bothered. I think previously we discussed about, maybe a month ago, we discussed about property and surrender related questions. And in this context, when you mentioned that, I was thinking, oh, it's karma yoga, but no, it's not karma yoga, it is surrender. Then the thought came like how to surrender, but it is clear.
In karma yoga, there's still a doership, right? That's why it's called karma yoga. It's still a yoga. It's a sadhana. Karma yoga is whatever I do it as an offering to Lord. Okay? That means I am still the doer. And I acknowledge that I am the doer. But there is a shift, because now no longer I'm doing for myself. I moved from kamya karma to nishkama karma. No longer I'm doing it, whatever I do. I continue to do whatever I was doing earlier. But this time the only shift is in my attitude. I'm doing it as an offering to existence. Now that doing as a part of offering to existence, it purifies the mind. It makes the mind receptive to this gnana that there is no doer. Because suddenly if you tell the person, I'm not the doer, it distorts the thinking. Okay, it's this teaching that you are not the doer is not, it's given at the right time. Okay, but initially karma yoga is prescribed. So you move from karma yoga, because that's what happens in Bhagavad Gita. In the second chapter, Krishna tells that Bhagavan is the doer, but Arjuna doesn't understand. In the Sankhya Yoga, is the highest teaching of Atmagnana is given by Krishna in the second chapter, but Arjuna doesn't understand. So immediately Krishna dilutes it and brings it down to Karma Yoga. Okay? In Karma Yoga, step by step it tells about Yagna, then you have to do Yagna, you have to do Nishkama Karma. Like that, step by step he goes. So I am the doer. When I am the doer, I do it as an offering to Lord. Then, because of that doing, some results come. Whatever results come, I accept as prasada from the Lord. And then third, I realize I am not the doer, Lord is the doer. This is the Karma Yoga Siddhi, the third aspect, which is surrender. I am not the doer, Lord is the doer.
Yeah, because in Karma Yoga, I am doing the action as an offering to God, and I am accepting the result. Still, there is I.
Correct. There's an I, but that I is now pointing to more to reality. It's in tune with dharma. That's the only difference. And even this karma yoga, please understand, any of this, right? Be it karma yoga, bhakti, gnana, when we're talking about in the true sense, real sense, you have to understand that this person who is doing karma yoga or bhakti or gnana has a divine touch to him already. There is some guru already present somewhere. Only then this is happening. Otherwise, it's another mental concept. Somewhere that gnana has come of what is karma yoga. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Mind goes into various concepts and games. I'm doing so much, Lord is not giving me anything. I'm doing service to Lord. Lord is not rewarding me. Right? That's typically what happens. The real nishkama clarity comes only with gnana, the teaching of Guru. And it doesn't come with teaching of Guru. The real understanding of karma yoga comes with seeing the Guru's life. Okay? That is the importance of Krishna. Krishna is physically there. And his words, Arjuna is able to see in his life. He's able to see the nishkama approach in Krishna's actions. Okay, if people are fortunate to have the opportunity to have such close observation of a gnani, then there is true transformation in that person. That was the whole point of the Gurukul system earlier, that you live with the master. Then your learning is multifold. You not only learn with what he's telling, you also learn on seeing his life, how he lives in Nishkama Karma. Because Naish Karma is something, it's an inference, you cannot see it. I am not the doer is a realization. But Nishkama you can see. Like what you see in probably soldiers or freedom fighters. Somebody who is doing seva to the country relentlessly. Right? So Swami Vivekananda was traveling. Then he was sitting in a village and giving a talk. He was answering questions after questions. People were asking many questions, he was answering. It had been 3 days. He had been sitting there, talking to people. And nobody bothered to ask him whether he's eaten food or anything. Then there's one person from, at that point, what is considered a lower caste. He comes and this person has been observing him. Tells him, you've not eaten anything. Will you accept the food if I give you? So another, yes, please. And he eats that food. He has lost all sense of time, space, body, because he's immersed in Nishkama Karma. Okay? That when you see in real life, it has an effect on you. It has a power to it. So you read about freedom fighters and all in the books. But when you actually meet somebody and they tell you even like a smallest story of something, of what they did, that has a huge impact on your life. Okay, that is the grace of the master. That is the importance of the Gnani, to teach from life. So Karma Yoga, surrender, Gnana, Bhakti, whatever it may be. It's not only for Atmanana, for any of these. The real learning comes from a real human being only. From books and movies, only delusions come. One association with the real Bhakta, your eyes will start watering. Okay? You don't have to see a miracle, you don't have to, nothing. You have 2-minute discussion with a real Bhakta, your eyes will start watering. You go into the presence of a real Gnani, your mind will shut down. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, just in the presence of the master. Okay, so people who you go meet Amritanandamayi, you will know what is love. You will know what is seva. It will hit you. It will hit every cell of yours. It is real living. Otherwise, everything is just political statements. Universal love, peace, and all that. So there was a great Bhakti teacher called Prema Panduram. She's no more, but her videos are available on the YouTube. She used to travel all across the world and give talks. Even in Bangalore, when she visited, we went many times. You go and sit there, you will start crying for Bhagavan. How it is happening, it will be, in retrospect, you will feel, you'll find it astonishing how such a stone-hearted person like me can cry. Okay. The most cold-hearted person will start tearing up for the Lord when she'll speak about Bhagavan. The most idiotic person will have the highest jnana in the presence of Shankaracharya, Guru like Shankaracharya. That is what is Tota Kashtava. Okay. The most laziest person will dedicate his life for the welfare of mankind. That is Karma Yoga. Just by association with the right person. That's what happened in America when all these useless people at that point of time were called parasites on society. And the US government was spending millions of dollars for rehabilitation of these people. They're called hippies. Okay, they're called parasites of the society. They don't contribute anything to the society, but they're always indulged in drugs and they don't do anything for another human being. One association with Prabhupada, person called Prabhupada, they built temples. These people who were parasites on the society started offering the society the most beautiful things. How can that happen from books and movies, stories? One association. It just ignites you. Okay, that is the significance of this chapter that Rahasya tells. One association with this lady called Hemaleka, Hemachura's life turned around. Not only his, the whole city got transformed. Simple touching of fire. Okay, any other doubts? Shall we close for the day? Tvameva mata, pita tvameva, tvameva bandhuscha, sakha tvameva, tvameva vidya, dravinam tvameva, tvameva sarvam, mama deva deva, loka samastha, Sukhino bhavantu, loka samastha, Sukhino bhavantu, Harihi Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Harihi Om, Hari Om.
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari
Thank you.
Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om Gurudeva.
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji.
Hari Om.